Good morning. Good morning. While we're on a short production break, I wanted to bring back an episode that I think hits a very specific feeling, one that doesn't always have the perfect name. This is episode 19. You're not lost. You're just not living on purpose yet. And it's really about that liminal in between space where your life looks fine on the outside, but something internally feels slightly or not so slightly off. You're doing things, you're moving, you're shaking, you're showing up in the world, but it still doesn't quite feel aligned, and you can't explain why. In this episode, we unpack that feeling a little bit more honestly and start to look at what it actually means to live with real intention rather than just momentum. If you've been feeling disconnected, this one's for you. And if you feel like you're drifting without really meaning to, this one will likely resonate. Also, if that's something you're navigating more deeply right now at this point in time, this is exactly the kind of clarity I help people get to in my one-to-one work. But for now, let's get into the episode. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Sage Sorority. I'm your host, Shantel. Happy Thursday. I hope you guys are all doing amazing. The weather is absolutely stunning. We're in a little bit of a heat wave, and I'm all about it. It is literally like giving me life. I'm so glad you guys are here with me today. And we're just going to get right into it, guys. Today we're talking about life missions, living on purpose, and, just some light chat. And this was actually inspired by a TikTok, surprise, surprise, the other day. And honestly, if you're on socials or just on your phone in general, you can just get into an endless scroll, right? And there's very few things nowadays that really like stop me in my tracks. And I can honestly say this video literally stopped me in my tracks. Like, you know how the algorithm just knows when you need to hear something? So this man was talking about not falling for the drift, right? And it's quite a long video, and of course I'll link it in the show notes for you guys, but he really spends quite a bit of time speaking about attention span and how that echoes throughout our lives and falling for like the drift when you're just drifting through life. And you're not depressed, you're not necessarily unhappy, but you're just kind of existing in this weird, like, liminal space between maybe who you currently are and who you want to be or who you're becoming. It's not like there was one specific line that got me. It's just when he was talking, the idea of like, what is your life mission? Because he gets into that more than halfway through the video. I was like, ooh, that is a really good question and gave me pause for thought, essentially. I just really felt it in my soul. Because here's the thing, and I want to be really clear about this from the jump. The conversation that we're about to have is not about being more productive. Like, I want to add that disclaimer. This is not a girl boss conversation. This is not about adding more to your already like very overflowing plate. We're all busy in our own way. This is more about living on purpose, being on purpose, and like moving forth on purpose, if that makes sense. And there's a huge difference. So if you've been feeling like you're floating through life lately, not quite anchored to anything super meaningful or with a lot of depth, or you're scrolling through Instagram wondering how everyone else seems to be so sure of their path while you're over here like WTF, then I hope that this resonates. And also, everyone you see on Instagram is not so sure of their path. It's literally just optics. So I also want to like add that in. Initially, like I said, the video starts on a heavy tangent about drifting through life. And I think when people hear that, your gut reaction and your immediate response is, I'm not drifting through life. Like, I work, I raise my kids, I go to church on Sundays, I see my friends. And it's like, you can be doing all of those things and still drifting through life. Drifting doesn't necessarily look like someone who's just not doing anything. And I think that's what people think. Drifting is about not having an aim, essentially. It's not just being unfocused or scattered, although it can look like that. I think for us as women, drifting often looks like staying in relationships we've outgrown because it's easier than having difficult, tough, painful conversations. It's losing months or even years to what I will say like survival mode, when you're technically functioning, but you're not really living. And before I go further, I do want to harp on this because I remember, and I might have even mentioned it on the podcast before, I used to work with this woman who was significantly older. I think at the time she was in her 70s, and she was the head of HR at the company. And for all intents and purposes, guys, like, she was awful. She was not a nice woman at all. And this is why I think you can learn from everyone, even people that you don't like. Because one time we were in the elevator, it was the end of the day, and I don't know what I was saying. And I honestly think I was just drifting through the conversation because I wasn't really being present. I was just kind of like getting through it because we were at the top floor going all the way down to the lobby, and it was like a long enough elevator ride. And I was like, oh, I can't wait until the weekend. I remember saying that, which is a very common thing that people say at work. Like, it's just as fluid as speaking about the weather. And I remember she looked at me so intently and so genuinely, and she was like, do not spend your life waiting for the weekend. And I was like, you're right. And honestly, for the rest of my life, I will always remember not only what she said, I will remember that moment, us in the elevator together, because she was so right. Like, do not spend your life waiting for the weekend. I ended up seeing it on an infographic like years later. Don't spend your life waiting for Friday. Don't spend your life waiting for summer. Don't spend your life waiting till the end of the year. Don't spend your life waiting until you're a set age. It is a dangerous trap. And that is a very easy way that we drift. Drifting is performing the version of yourself that you think others expect instead of actually living as you are. And I will add on to that drifting is also performing the version of yourself that you have not given enough time and effort and detail to. I hope that makes sense. Waiting for the right moment to start that thing, have that conversation, make that change. But the thing is, guys, the right moment never comes, and you end up moving the goalpost further and further. Do you want to know when the right moment is? It's now. It's today. It's in this moment. It's like that quote with the tree, right? The best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time, today. Hopefully I'm not like mixing that up, but you know what I mean. And here's what really gets me. So you know that so many women report feeling disengaged from their daily lives. Do you guys know what disengaged means? So there's a couple definitions. I'm going to say two that I think are hyper relevant. Separate or release someone or something from something to which they are attached or connected. So your own life, you are disengaged. You are separating yourself from your actual life. The one and only that you get, by the way. Even if you believe in reincarnation, you would never come back as this beautiful self. You would come back as something else or someone else. Second definition, which sums it up perfectly, is emotionally detached. Women are emotionally detached from their own lives, from their daily lives, their day to day. That is not a personal failing. That is a cultural epidemic. That is not one person's like, quote unquote, bad life or low grade survival mode or quote unquote bad decisions. If we want to reference our great patron saints from Sex and the City, we will reference Charlotte for a second. Remember when she quit her job at the gallery to focus on getting married? So this plays out in season 4, episode 55. The episode is titled Time and Punishment, where Charlotte, who is a successful curator of an art gallery, is giving up her career that she loves and feels very ambivalent about doing so. On paper, she had a plan, but was she really living her mission, or was she just drifting towards what she thought she was supposed to want? And we know that the one thing Charlotte wanted all of those single years on Sex and the City was that she wanted a husband. And now she had her husband. It's such a contrast because if you watch the show, you know that so many of her moves are very intentional when it comes to men. The type of men that she dates, like where they hang out, what they look like. That episode where she sits down with a married couple and is like, okay, so I'm determined to get married and I want you to introduce me to all of your single friends. And she like pencils it in like right then and there. So she literally like writes it in her diary. And then of course, because men are gonna men, the husband tells her like, yeah, I'm gonna introduce you to this guy. He's amazing, da-da-da. She gets there thinking that she's about to be on a date and it's the husband saying, I'm in love with you. Absolutely insane. But she's always been very intentional, even when she was dating Harry, converting to Judaism before she was even engaged, like set the date. Always very, very intentional. But that moment where she's leaving her job, it's not that she's sad, but she's not particularly happy or thrilled about that decision either. Again, it's just a drift. And you might say, oh, but she made that decision. Yes, we all make decisions. That doesn't mean that they're in line with our higher self. And that doesn't mean that we're consciously making those decisions from a place of confidence and our mission. Sometimes we're just making decisions aimlessly. So I want you to pause with me for a second and just ask yourself very quickly, are you just busy? Are you just going through it? Have you been drifting? Can you put a pulse on it? And maybe to go a step further, can you put a pulse on it on different aspects of your life? Parenting, your intimate relationship, your friendships, your fitness goals, your health, your beauty goals, whatever. And yes, beauty goals are a thing. Don't give me grief. They are a fucking thing. Before we dive into today's episode, here's a quick heads up that I'm opening up a few one-to-one coaching spots this summer. If you've been in your head about work, relationships, or what's next, and you just want to talk it out with someone who will actually listen and won't bombard you with a bunch of buzzwords, this might be for you. Honestly, summer is the perfect time to reset. Things slow down, inboxes get a lot more quiet, and that space can either spiral into overthinking or be the moment where you finally shift something in your life. You can book a one-off session with me or a monthly series. All the details are in the show notes. I look forward to talking. Bye. Because there is a difference between just being busy and having a full calendar and having a full life. And there's a difference between staying busy and staying true to yourself, because busy can also be a form of numbing. Busy can also be in line with your goals. When I did my 51st dates in 12 months, I was very busy. I did. But I dedicated that year. This was also like post-COVID or post-lockdown, I should say. My focus and my goal was socialization. That was my goal. I was living very intently and very true to what I wanted in that moment and very true to who I am as a person. Someone who is new to this country, relatively speaking, wanted more community and just wanted to get out there and meet more people. It was very intentional into what I wanted and where I was going and what I saw for myself. So that's what I mean. Like, it's about being radically honest and checking in, because busy can mean that you're on the right path. Busy can mean that you're fulfilling your life's mission or that you're inching closer to fulfilling it. Busy can also be a distraction. Busy can also be a drift. Now, before we keep going with this, I just want to say that I don't want you to treat this as like yet another task. That's not what this is. I promise you that's not what this is. The reason most women don't have a clear mission, and I would tie into the 60% that are disengaged from their daily life, 60% don't have a mission, if not more, is not because we're just super fallible. It's just because we were never really taught to trust our own voice in the first place. And this is a huge issue across all women in most of the world. So you are far from alone, my friend. We are all in this together. We have to be radically honest about the cultural conditioning that we've all absorbed. And we say these words often, and I think because we say them often, we think that it just kind of like doesn't matter. And it's like, no, it matters so much. And that's why if you are living a full life, or you determine to at least live a very honest one, it is constantly checking in with yourself and making sure that, are these things that I actually believe? Is it something that I want to continue to believe? From the time we're little girls, we are rewarded for being nice, being pleasing, but not powerful. We see this, right, in schools. Girls are bossy, boys show leadership skills, right? That's the easiest basic example that we can see. Which, side note, if you ever go on teacher TikTok in the US, it is not looking good, guys. Like, the way these girls are outpacing the boys is insane. I'm talking big margins. Like, there was a teacher that had, the school does like girl and boy of like the year or something like that. Sorry, not the year, like the month, something like that. And they say it over like morning announcements. And the drastic difference between what the quote unquote girl of the month has done and like what the boy of the month has done is drastic. And it's actually insane. Like, the boy of the month, it'll be like, oh, like hasn't been late to class. And like, that's like his one accomplishment. Meanwhile, this girl's like getting 80 plus. She's like in the musical theater class. She's this and that. And it's just like, that is not a good thing. And you know what? I'm going to be that woman. And I know I don't have children, but if you have children, and particularly if you have a son, I hope, I'm going to use my very fucking stern voice. Take it if you want it. I really hope like you are doing some deep work within yourself, because These boys are, it's very clear that there is a huge gap between men and women. The girls are seeing it in dating. Women in their 20s and 30s are seeing it. And that gap is already starting from such a young age. And now those margins are wider and wider. So I really hope that you are taking the time to raise your sons with as much fervor and intensity as you raise your daughters. Deadass. This whole like boy mom shit, like I'm just not with it. I don't know if I told you guys, I literally saw a TikTok maybe a month ago of a woman who was like, she did like a fake wedding and the groom was like her son and this kid was like 4. It's like, you guys, this is sick. Like your son is not a substitute for the husband that you didn't get. And that's not about not having a man in the house either. You have a man in the house, but he sucks. So you're making your son's love substitute for that. That is not it, okay? It is not it. And that's not even what this episode is about. But I do feel like we can't like dance around this kind of stuff anymore. Because as a society, we've been dancing around it for modern history and it's just getting worse and worse. Women are taught, young girls are taught to read the room, make everyone else comfortable, smooth over the rough edges. Being too much is the worst thing a woman can be. Being too much, you're doing too much, like the worst thing, right? And then we grow up and we wonder why we have no fucking idea what we want. We have been gaslit when it comes to our own intuition, and nothing on this planet is as valuable as a woman's intuition. We fucking gaslit that like, no, you're crazy. No, she's not crazy. She's actually right. You know how many times I've seen a woman's intuition save her life? You know how many times I've seen a woman have dreams that her partner is cheating on her and she wakes up and she finds out he's cheating on her? Men don't have that. Men do not fucking have that. That is a gift. You cannot buy that on any shelf. And it's because we spent decades learning to want what everyone else wants for us. And then you get to a point in your life where you're like, what the fuck have I been doing this whole time? And another trap that we fall into is that we've been conditioned to think that our mission either has to be having kids and being at home and being a good support system and supporting star to everyone else in our lives, or it's our career. I'm sorry, you're such a dynamic person, but you can only pick 2 lanes. It's left or right. And here's what I've learned both from my own journey and from talking to a lot of women is that for most of us, honestly, our true mission starts after something ends. Like most women's breakthroughs, real breakthroughs, come after they've had some sort of rock bottom moment, some sort of catalyst. After their relationship taught us who we're not, after the job that drained our soul, been there, after the version of ourselves that we can finally outgrow. And sometimes the rock bottom is very subtle. Sometimes you wake up one day and you're like, this is not it, and something's got to change. And sometimes it's a lot more dramatic than that. There's a quote that I love, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, drifting happens when a woman forgets her own voice or was never taught to trust it in the first place. So first things first is your life mission is not a job or a brand or a position. It is your why beneath the roles, and it's the pattern that you feel so compelled to live out loud. I will give examples of like what a life mission could look like or sound like later on, but I want to just kind of get your mind going. It's not your Instagram bio. It is not some grand declaration that you would like have on business cards, but it's like your why and like where you're going, right? Think of it this way. Your mission is the pattern that you were born to live out loud. It's the thing that when you're doing, you feel in absolute alignment. Your mission might look like turning your pain into something useful for other people. It might look like living so authentically that because you're doing that, you're able to inspire other women to feel permission to breathe and be themselves as well. It could look like reclaiming beauty, sensuality, and your voice as acts of rebellion in a world that tells us to shrink. Yes. It can also be a completely different life path than whatever everyone expected. You can live your mission as the woman who left. You can live your mission as the woman who stayed. You can live your mission as the woman who started over at 35, at 39, at 69, at 73. Now, you guys know I love my books, female authors, and I think about someone like Glennon Doyle and Elizabeth Gilbert. Glennon specifically, who found her mission like in the trenches of her life. Her life was blowing up. She was literally like reborn in that. Your mission can also change. You do not have to be bound to one thing. I heard something the other day that it's like sometimes the reason why we struggle with or why we feel so old is because like this is the oldest you've ever been. So it's always going to feel a particular way to you because you can look back at your younger self and be like, I was so young back then. Because you don't know anything older than where you are right now. But something I want you to remember, regardless of the age that you are right now, is that there is another version of you in the future that is looking back at you and saying, girl, don't be fucking stupid. You are so young. Or I think about Elizabeth Gilbert, who turned her curiosity into a calling. She was in a good marriage and she was unhappy. And yeah, you can say she's privileged and she's this and she's that. Of course, we're all privileged in our own way. And everyone listening to this is privileged. Like you listening on your phone or your computer and having enough Wi-Fi and data to listen to this easily while you're driving to work or you're on a run or you're at the gym or you're on the tube. Privileged. So Elizabeth turned her curiosity into calling, into the great legendary masterpiece that is Eat, Pray, Love. And I loved Eat, Pray, Love. I loved Eat, Pray, Love before it was a movie. Just saying, little humble brag. But then Elizabeth turned her life around again when she started dating her partner, I forget her name, and she ended up passing away. These are not women who had it all figured out from day one. They did not. And newsflash, no one does. No one fucking does. These are women who learn to trust their intuition and they learn to trust the tiny whispers of their own heart. Girls, listen to me and listen to me well. Your inspiration is not always going to come on some blimp. Sometimes you're going to be minding your business, going to Blank Street or Tim Hortons or Costa or Cafe Nero, and you're going to be sitting down and something's going to hit you. Or you're going to be reading a book and something's going to come to you. Or someone's going to text you about something completely irrelevant and everything's going to click. What do I always say? Well, I say a lot of things, but looking inward instead of outward. I don't even know if that's like proper grammar, but I know you know what I mean. So just like, we're just going to stick with that. And something really important is that your mission does not have to change the world. You do not need to save all the babies and all the children and go to base camp and whatever. You don't. It just has to be meaningful for you. It has to be worthy of a North Star for you. Because when you live authentically, and I know this is going to sound like something you're going to see in a greeting card, but it's true regardless. When you live authentically, that then gives other people to do the same. And don't think, oh, I'm not a content creator. It's irrelevant because you don't live on some stranded island by yourself. You have children that are watching you. Fuck what you say to your kids. They're not listening. They're watching you. And this is for my young moms out there. The older moms know that. They know. These kids are not listening. But the young moms, you're like, my kids listen to me. Yeah, for now because they're babies. But once they become like kids, preteen, teenagers, they're not listening to you. And I would say, because most psychologists say, I think from 2 to 7 are like the most important formative years, your kids are watching you. They are watching you. And it's not just watching you cook dinner for them every night. It's watching you be happy, watching what lights you up, watching what brings you joy, watching you have your own life, watching you read, watching you work out, all of the things. I grew up with 2 of my aunts and I naturally gravitated towards reading as a young kid. I think by 3, like I was a solid reader, obviously like with very like elementary books, but I was a solid reader and true to form. Many years later, I'm still a reader. It's still my thing. If I have nothing in this world, I'm gonna have a book. Trust me on that. I will have a book. I've always been like that. And it's something that I love about myself. I love that I'm always down to read and I'm filled to the brim with books. I can look in my room right now and I can see at least 15 books just in like my eye view, which is insane. A huge part of that is because one of my aunts used to love to read. Always used to see her reading. Now, she used to read more like sci-fi, fantasy, like some Stephen King, like definitely genres that I never got into, but she always read. There were easily times where you'd find her quiet time in her room just reading. And that is not something you can tell your kids to do. You can force them. If you want it to stick, let them watch you do it. Kids emulate their parents. They want to do what their parents are doing because it's their example of adults. It's their example of quote unquote society. It's their example of autonomous living. Anyways, I digress. If you're a journal girly, I challenge you to think about this. When you think of your most honest self, the version of yourself that you trust the most, what is she here to do? If I came up to you and I said, "Hi, babe, how are you?" "Good, babe, how are you?" "What are you on this earth to do?" How would you answer? Not what she does to feel accomplished, not what she should be doing. What are you here to do? What feels inevitable about the way you move through the world? Have a think. Okay, now you've had a think. You're like, okay, I'm kind of leaning towards something, but I'm still hella confused. Like, I don't know. I've thought of a paragraph worthy of things. I don't know which direction to go. Okay, let's just like get a little practical. And here are some things to think about, I'll say. Because honestly, all the inspiration in the world really just does not matter if you don't know where to start. So, first things first, and this is going to sound strange, stay with me, but I would say write your eulogy. And if you don't want to write it, I would say think about it. Think about it really hard. And I'm not saying you need to come up with like a 10-minute speech. Think about what you would want to be said in that moment because you cannot speak for yourself. What do you want to be remembered for? Not necessarily admired for, but just like remembered. You know, what the impact that you want your life to have had. And achievements can be part of that, but it's not really about that. I need you to think bigger. This is about like essence and embodying, if that makes sense. And it's something I've thought about. And I have come down to one line. And I always go back to like, and this is not my life mission, but I definitely like, God willing, in my eulogy, whoever is saying it, they say like, here lies Shantel. She loved life and life loved her back. And I just like stick with that. And I love that. Fuck yeah, I love this life. Even on my bad days, I love this life. And life loves me back. And I love that. Number 2. So your daydreams and your longings and your desires, I want you to start tracking them. Now, if you're a journal girly, journal. Also, if you're doing like the artist way or you have that book and you just have not started it and you're doing morning pages, first of all, if you don't have the artist way, you definitely need to get it. I have never done the process, but I do know a little bit about it. For those of you that don't know, it's like a creative muscle building. It's very powerful for anyone. It doesn't matter if you're in the creative field or not. But what I know in the artist way, in the creative practice that she makes you do, is you have to do morning pages. And morning pages is 3 pages and you just write anything. You could journal, you could just write your thoughts. But the idea is that no matter what, every morning you write morning pages and you have to do 3 pages. So if you are in the artist way program or you're doing that or you're reading the book and you're morning pages girly, that is a really good way to start tracking your longings. What's pulling at you? Even though you've tried to ignore it. What do you like? What do you love? What's lighting you up? What's making you feel good about yourself? It can be the tiniest thing. It can be the biggest thing. If you're not a journal girly, what I would say is iPhone notes or even your voice notes, like your voice memos. Just start documenting the things that, you know, you're liking and you're loving and you're desiring and you're longing for. It can be, like I said, something big, something small. It can be how you feel when you're creating something with your hands. It can be some of the conversations that you're having that have like energized you instead of drained you. Really, really, really important. Honestly, guys, there's no wrong answer. The idea is get your brain moving, get your brain thinking. You know how I feel? Creativity is a muscle. You got to use it. You got to stimulate it. Just give yourself that zhuzh. Thirdly, so I want you to ask yourself this question. If you were on stage, I am forcing you to get on stage and I need you to speak about something and no one is going to clap, but you still have to do it. What would you talk about? What could you talk about? No notes, no prompter, no nothing. What is a problem that you see in the world that compels you, that makes you want to do something about it? Again, these are just questions to get your mind going, to help you with forming your mission. Fourthly, you want to audit your input. So this is huge and it's something we really don't talk about enough. You guys, a lot of us are just consuming way too much. And I'm not going to pick one platform over the other because a lot of people watch too much fucking TV and they've been doing that for years. Obviously, TV moves a lot slower and that's why it doesn't harm the attention span as much. But you really need to be mindful of how much time you're spending on your phone and how much time you're spending on social media apps. It's really, really, really important. Too much news, too much social media, too many of other people's fucking opinions like floating around in your head. When was the last time that you actually sat in silence? Maybe your kid is down for a nap, maybe it's late at night. No TV, no phone, no Instagram, no TikTok, no dating apps, like no distraction. Just sit, think, relax. You don't have to meditate if that's not your thing, but like recalibrate. 5 minutes before bed, sit up straight and be like, simple question, how do I feel about today? How do I feel about today? What was a good thing that happened today? What was a less than great thing that happened today? I don't watch the Kardashians at all, but I remember when I used to. I remember Courtney saying one time that their dad, Robert Kardashian, used to always sit down with them and ask them the peak and the valley of the day. And I thought that was so good. Like, what's the best thing that happened today and what's the worst thing that happened? This is how you begin to look inward. This is how you begin to look to yourself for answers. This is how you get clarity, also through action, but that's not what we're talking about right now. That's the other 50% of it. But the first 50% of it is trusting yourself enough to ask your own fucking questions to yourself and be able to answer them. You would be surprised at when you are speaking out loud to yourself, how things just flow. They really flow. I challenge you, sit in silence with your own thoughts. Speak out loud to yourself. Today was a great day. Today was a very average day. Best thing about my day was that when I ordered Blank Street, it came really quickly. Maybe that's all you got, but you're thinking about it. You're being conscious for your own life. I really hope that this is making sense. And then finally, I want to challenge you to speak to the women around you. Your mission can often be found in what others naturally come to you for. Before I started the podcast, I asked so many people, what would you want to hear me talk about? Or give me ideas for the podcast, like actual podcast episodes. And it was really helpful for me because you are able to get a different perspective that you just wouldn't otherwise. I was able to see what people would value me for or what they would just want my perspective on. And some of the things I was like, oh, really? Like, you actually want me to make a podcast about that? Yeah. Now, did I crowdsource for probably a little too long? Absolutely. I should have spit the fucking bullet and did it. But we all do things at our own time, and it helped me. And sometimes it just validated what I thought about myself, which is also incredibly helpful. What do your friends call you about? What do your kids ask you about when they're struggling? When you're talking to strangers, when they come up to you and they compliment you, what do they say? Sometimes our innate gifts and our purpose is so close to us that it's blinding. Like, we just can't see it. We really need that macro vision. And that macro vision can often be people around you that know you and know you from a perspective that you don't know yourself, because that's just the way it works. Something that might surprise you guys is that your mission is not just good for your soul. It is good for your life, the longevity of your life, and the quality of your life. Now, because above all, we have to keep it real, I will be honest and just say that once you figure out your mission, it might not feel all rah, exciting and motivational at first. You may feel a little grief and you may feel a little disappointment because you may look at that mission and be like, I am so fucking far from this, and now I feel depressed about it. Or you may look around and say, this ain't that. My life is not this mission. There is a big gap here. The relationships that were based on who you used to be, it just might not work anymore. Routines that you have might not work anymore. Dreams that you thought you wanted might not work anymore. So don't beat yourself up, truly. It's also not helpful to where you're going. Don't have too much grief. It's normal. It's part of the process. And most importantly, like, it's sacred. Even your undoing and your confusion is sacred. Honor that. Don't shit on that. Some of us do our real becoming after like supposed milestones, but a lot of us don't. Because again, dream that you wanted or dream that you inherited. After a lot of us realize that hitting all the shoulds don't actually fill the void, and after we understand that other people's approval, yes, that includes your parents, it's just not going to be enough. It's just not. I remember one of my exes used to tell me, it's all about the journey. It's all about the journey. And I used to fucking hate it. Like, I used to hate it. It was very annoying because it's just like, well, I'm struggling. Like, I'm not interested in the journey. Like, it's all part of the journey. Honestly, guys, it used to drive me fucking crazy. But of course, hindsight's 2020, and there's a lot of perks to getting older, and one of them is your wisdom bucket grows and grows, and he was absolutely right. It is about the journey. It is. Still annoying to hear sometimes, and still even annoying to say, but it's true. Starting over at any point in your life, in any different area, is not a failure. I have to say that. I hope that you all know that, but I do have to reiterate. Starting over is such a good thing. It takes so much courage to look at your life and say, this ain't it. This ain't it. Then have the audacity to build something different that's more fitting to you. Could be grander, could be smaller. None of that matters as long as it's more fitting to you at this point in your life. You don't need clarity for the whole thing. You literally just need to take one brave step, one foot in front of the other, and the path will truly reveal itself as you walk it. No different to when you're building something and it's like, just go. You learn more by doing than you ever will by thinking about it. So I've got some examples, as I promised, of just like different ideas to kind of get your mind going and think about your life mission. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to stick with you until you have your last breath. You're always changing, always evolving, always blooming. So just take this with a grain of salt and hopefully it gets your mind going. So here are just a few. I was made to be a wife, to love deeply, serve intentionally, and build a life of romance and order. My mission is to honor that role with pride and not shame. Could even say I was made to be a wife and a mother. My mission is simple: to walk with God, not as a performance, but as a true silent devotion, and to honor that walk, how I live, speak, dress, love, and interact with the world. I think that's beautiful. I'm here to live a life that turns me on, to be moved by music, sense, travel, love, truly engaging with all five senses. My mission is to help other women find their own pulse again. I'm not late. I'm just arriving now. My mission is to build something beautiful from scratch and show that starting over isn't a failure, it's a power move. I come from a lineage of lack. My mission is to be the woman who changes that for myself and for everyone that comes after me. Sounds fucking badass. I hope that this kind of gets your mind going. I have two more. And again, I just want to show you that there's just so many different archetypes of women. So I really want you to dig deep and just think about it. So maybe you're in a flux of life, you're in a transition phase, and you're like, my mission now is to rediscover the woman that I put on pause. If you're an empty nester, if you're middle age, all of that stuff, and to show that reinvention is always possible, even if no one's watching. I think for your life mission, even when no one's watching, even if no one's watching, because I think even if you put that in and then you think, okay, what should come after that? That is a really good way to like narrow and focus. Maybe it's like, I want to be the best, insert your name, possible. And that looks like being happy, healthy, whole, showing my children, insert names, that is possible, encourage them to do that in their own life. And that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's my mission is to show my kids, even on my worst day, that life is beautiful. Simple, clean, beautiful. Maybe you print that out and put it in your house or you put it in your room. Maybe it's simple. My mission is to speak plainly, laugh loudly, and help younger women stop apologizing for wanting a good life. Anyways, just to kind of get your mind going, and I really hope that it does. It's even gotten my mind going. So before we close off on this beautiful Thursday, I want to leave you guys with a few more thoughts and maybe some journal prompts if you're a journal girly. If not, get on your voice memos. If you're an artist way girly, get on your morning pages. If you're a meditation girly, maybe meditate on this in the morning. What would it mean for you to live your life in full color? I'm talking 4K full color. What would that mean? And even if you're like, Shantel, I already do. Okay, I challenge you. How can you take it a few steps further? How could you just turn up the dial a little bit? Challenge yourself to answer that question. In what ways do you maybe dim yourself or pull a little back or speak a little lower or put a little bit more sugar than where you would to make others comfortable? What would it mean for you to trust in your voice, in your vision, and in your version of what is beautiful? What would it mean? And also, I do want to say that you are not behind. You can't be behind in your own life. You can never lose yourself. When people say I lost myself, I mean, maybe this is like a hot take. I don't think so. I don't believe that. I don't think you can ever lose yourself. I really don't. I think you can disconnect and be disengaged for sure, but lose yourself? Never. You are all you have. You get distracted. The noise gets loud and the static gets fuzzy, but lost, never. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are becoming always in all ways. And becoming is a lifelong practice. So get comfy. Don't resist. The world needs what you have to offer ultimately. Even if you don't have faith in that at the moment, and even if you can't, if you're like, it's blurry. I know something's there, but I have no idea what it is. Keep digging. Keep being interested in making that vision clearer. I'm not going to say that passively it'll come to you. No, keep being interested and then it'll come to you. Your mission is always waiting for you. Your highest self is always waiting for you when you're brave enough to go after it and claim it. Don't ever let the shame of where you've been or maybe even where you are hold you back from what you know you are capable of having and being. Anyways, guys, this one was a little deep, a little bit more woo, a little bit more esoteric and philosophical, but hopefully you dig it. If you know, you know. If you get it, you get it. Let me know what you think. Please send me a note on Instagram or TikTok and let me know what you think of this week's episode. I will be in Greece next Thursday, but don't worry, I will never leave you guys hanging. Of course, I will have another podcast episode for you. Have a beautiful day, London. Stay hydrated and wear your sunscreen. I hope you guys have a beautiful week. I will talk to you next week. I love you so much. Bye.